Welcome back, y'all, to episode 26, I believe it is now, of my vlog overviewing my channeled writings, my book, 7 Universal Truths, The Path to Peace and Prosperity, channeled by the collective consciousness known as the Council. Well, now, picking up on my last video about my move and this gentleman that I had met as a part of the move and how he was so intense. Now, mind you, when I first started writing this book, the council told me that I was going to be the living, breathing testimonial for unconditional love, forgiveness, compassion, and non-judgment. And I certainly had learned a few things and experienced that from both my divorce, but especially from my relationship that I had with my best friend of 35 years that did not go well, to say the least. Refer back to the other videos to get the information on that if you're just catching me here late in the series. But horrific shit, but set me on my journey to self-love, so everything that happens in life is in support of us. Nothing is asserted against us. And these experiences that are unfolding in my life are giving me the opportunity to apply, to learn and actually embody these universal truths that have been channeling through me for years up until this point. And this destined moment of me having this move and meeting this man was certainly a part of that journey. So he's called me that night. He comes by the next day and we sit and talk and we sit down. And let me just say, this guy, not only is he intense, but he's a beautiful man. Beautiful. Oh, chocolate drop, bald head, body to die for. But it's his energy that, and he's smart, that really has me interested and I'm a psychic medium. I just knew. I said, this guy's got a story. So when we sit out on the patio, I first start out by saying, talk to me. You have a story. What's your story? And oh my God, did he have a story. So I find out, first of all, that he heralds from Los Angeles like I do. He's younger than me. He's 48. I'm 61. And of course, I'm giving him a rash of shit about being a baby. But he starts telling me his story. And the way he's telling me this story is quite interesting to me. He starts out by saying, well, I was incarcerated for 25 years for murder. I didn't stutter, y'all. Incarcerated for 25 years for murder. So as he's telling me this story, and he is giving it to me straight, he is not sugarcoating shit. He's telling me about how he was a young dad and he loved being a dad. He went in at 18 years old and he had a daughter that he enjoyed being a dad with, that he cooked for her, he took her to school, and he was just, his identity really was being a dad, even so young. And while he was in prison, one day he had a conversation with her, and she said, you know, Dad, the only thing I know about you is that you're in prison and a gangbanger, because let's not forget that part. He was a gangbanger. Also talked about his abandonment issues that he had with his dad, that, you know, he was 6 years old waiting on the stoop for Dad to come and pick him up and never did. And he says, and he did that and wondered why Dad didn't come get him, why he wasn't good enough, and said he still waited on that stoop, even at 16, waiting for Dad to show up, this time at 16 with a gun in his lap. Anyway, back to the story about his daughter, he said it hit him like a bullet that his daughter would think that one. It's like, how could she think that? I used to take her to school. I was a present dad. He said it was a moment in which he decided to change his life. And, gangs are a real thing inside of prison, and he was still living every bit of that life in prison that he was outside. He said, I needed to go to prison. I needed to go to prison. And for 8 years or 12 years that he was in, he was doing all the same shit he was doing on the outside. But in this moment, he decided he wanted to change his life. He wanted to make himself into a man that his daughter could be proud of. So he began to change. He began to, his grandmother was a preacher. He began to turn back to his religion. And he also began to change on the inside about not wanting to be a part of gang life anymore. One day, this was 2 years into his decision, he was a different man on the inside, but not on the outside, still hanging with the gangs. And he said he had just recently had a surgery and woke up in so much pain, couldn't take it another day, that he was going to make the decision that he was going to tell his homies that he was not with the life anymore. And he knew there was a possibility that he would not survive that conversation. He said the day that he walked out on the yard to tell them that, because he told his friends, have everybody out there, I have something to tell them. He went out, he said it was the longest walk of his life. And he got out there and he said, I'm not going to make this long. I've changed on the inside. This is no longer me. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And so they said, you've always been the, for good or bad, the epitome of a gang member. Done everything we've ever asked you to do. The only thing that we're going to let you out, but you can't get back in. He says, I didn't straddle the fence when I was in. I was 10 toes down. I'm firm in my decision. He said as he turned to walk away, he knew that there were 20 some odd pairs of eyes staring at him, all of them with knives, and fully expected him to not make that walk back, but he, by the grace of God, did. And he said it was the longest, loneliest walk of his life, and never, ever, ever longed for the comfort of a prison cell. He made it back, and he said it was that night, because he doesn't remember much about it, he says, but he remembers sleeping the best night of his life. And he said ever since then, he's been working like a dog to live a life that could make his daughter proud and work to get out of prison, and he did. He got out after 25 years of serving a life sentence for murder. The whole time I'm listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, why aren't I scared? First of all, no fear in me. And I'm listening to this man tell me this story of nothing less than incredible transformation. And I am seeing, but I'm sensing this man as something very, very, very special. We couldn't be so different. We came both from the hood, took two different paths, but yet here we are on this singular path, having this conversation. Destined moment. And it would begin my part of my journey in learning and teaching others the beauty of non-judgment. Well, buckle in, because friends, family, everybody, lots of judgments about this one. Stay tuned, and I'll continue telling the story. It gets really interesting. Like and share this video, and please, please, please share your comments, but share it with someone who you think can benefit from it, who's looking to gain more out of their life than just living from the human lens and looking more from the spiritual possibilities. Namaste.